Good morning, everyone. Happy New Year, and thank you for joining the first edition of This Morning in 2022. I am Nifemi Oguntoye. So in a short while, the festivity is going to give way to some more realities, particularly economic and political, in 2022. And we're beginning with the economic realities of the new year vis-a-vis the government policies in the outgone year. So the reaction was loud in December. People were saying that, oh, the market price went up, it skyrocketed, the economy is bad. But some people still had a dirty December. And I hope that you plan for January. You know what they say about January? It's about 6 weeks long. I mean, it's perhaps the longest month in the new year. So in case you're borrowed, I wish you all the best. But we're looking at the economic outlook for the new year. And I'm joined by an economist, Oladotun Mabinuori. Happy New Year. Good morning.
Good morning.
And thank you for joining us yet again.
Thanks for having me.
Hope you had a great time, during the Yuletide.
I tried, but the December wasn't as dirty as I wanted it to be.
How do you mean?
You don't know.
Are you not a chartered accountant and financial analyst? This is where your strength is supposed to be reviewed.
That chartered accountant in me
yes.
put pen to paper that January is long. There are not 6 weeks in January. There are 61 days in January.
Oh.
Yeah, so it's a very long month.
But the amazing thing is, year after year, it's the same story. You go to the market and then they say, oh, we sold more last year than we did this year. Sure. It's the same story year after year. And then I'm wondering if that story is going to change. But let's turn our attention to perhaps how the economy recovered last year post-COVID-19 pandemic. From 0.11% GDP in the fourth quarter of 2020, we recorded a whooping 5.01% in the second quarter of 2021. According to Mr. President, that's perhaps his biggest economic achievement, and he's saying that it's even the strongest since the last quarter of 2014. This is perhaps the biggest GDP growth in sub-Saharan Africa last year, but it slowed down a bit to 4.03 in the third quarter of 2021. So its gross domestic product, I think it has to do with the value of all the products and services in the year. The big question is, did we see that? I mean, try to break it down for us, because many Nigerians will say, I don't understand these figures that you guys are brandishing.
All right then. Okay, so let me try as much as I said to break it down. There's a difference between the figure and then the impact of the figure. So GDP calculation and what have you is just the figure. Then the impact, which now talks about the economic well-being of the citizens, is what citizens are particular about. So, and that's actually what we call the economic growth and economic development in economics. Okay. So GDP measures economic growth, how brilliant, how buoyant the economy is, or how it has shrunk over the years. But in terms of the development, means how does that growth translate to either improving the well-being of the citizens or reducing their well-being. And economic development doesn't just happen overnight. It takes time. Okay. That's why we said we always define economic development as a sustained economic growth that translates to an improvement in the well-being of the citizens. That's economic development. So it has to be sustained over a period of time. Not forgetting that in the last 2019, let me see, the last two years, so to speak, 2019, 2020, went through recession, came out of the recession, then 2016 recession was still there. An economy going through recession it's like a car having an accident twice in a year. I mean, 5 years. There's no way the car will never be the same. And not just having an accident that the airbag comes out, the shaft bends, and all those. I don't want to put the car together. You will not get the best of that car. So that's what we are experiencing right now. So the economy is growing, fine, but even that growth, fine, is 5.3001% growth in the second quarter of last year. It's actually an improvement, a very remarkable one. And we've also looked at the third one. It is already nosediving, we have 4.03 in the third quarter we have not seen the fourth quarter of 2021. Yes. If it goes down again, then we should start agitating. So I don't think Mr. President is here to call it uhuru. For now, we still need to put all hands on deck to ensure that we sustain that growth. But if that growth is not sustained, it will not translate to economic development. People will still not feel the impact, because it is now. everybody's crying. The economy is still not the way it is. We should be, because the growth has not translated to.
So you're saying that this recovery is a gradual process that requires a consistent collective effort to improve our economic activities. Yeah. However, perhaps we should be asking the question, what did we do in the second quarter to have had that growth, so to speak, in the GDP and have it sustained? Okay.
If you check our GDP, the largest contributor to our GDP is agriculture, contributing about over 24% to the GDP. In 2019, early 2020, we had series of farmers clash, farmers clash in a different part of the country, especially the middle belt, where is a basket state of the nation. So, but if you check 2020, to a very large extent, those clashes reduced. Then people start producing, goods start coming to market, the manufacturers start getting goods and stuff. So that's why I said it's a ripple effect. It doesn't just happen overnight. So because of that reduction in insecurity between farmers and others, then farm produce start coming out, and then the market starts rebounding. And I've also, and again, if also check manufacturers, actually, most manufactured goods, about 70% of their raw material come from the farm. Yeah. So if the farm is distorted, the market will be distorted, price of goods and services will go up, the GDP will surely be affected. So it's like saying the major of the major being treated. 24% of GDP is being attended to. Then, of course, we should expect such growth. Then again, the aviation sector, the service sector, after COVID, because the restrictions have been lifted, people rushed in. Our foreign remittances also start increasing. People start sending money back home because their own domestic economy over there, those in UK, US, got their job back, started working at home, or different ways of since they opened the economy, money started coming to the economy, into Nigeria. Then the economy starts coming up again. They also realized that we also have a series of foreign direct investment coming in. Over $1 billion was injected into venture capital and the likes. That is angel investors sending money to people that have business ideas in Nigeria. Then about $1.2 billion came in 2021. So all these put together will surely make the economy to come in. Then another aspect I also look at is also the issue of CBN trying to I think CBN needs what they call a complementary effort from the fiscal aspect, that is the Federal Minister of Finance. But we're not seeing that. CBN is more or less like the same person playing, the same person the striker, the same person the defender. So it's really not easy. So if both of them can work in harmony, we'll even see more of this. So that's why I said it's not yet Uhuru. We can't say we have gotten 5 point something, then that we'll go back to bed. Because 5 point something is already nosediving now. So those are the things that they did in 2020 that made, in 2019 and 2020, that made that difference. The economy coming up and putting in their best to ensure that they get their job back, they get their life back, and that also translates into the...
Let's look at inflation and how it affected the purchasing power of the average Nigerian. We're told that the inflation averaged at 17.28%. And if there's any time that Nigerians really did understand the concept of inflation, it was 2021, because the prices of goods and services just went to the roofs. What was responsible for it, and what kind of impact do you see this have on the economy? All right.
You know, inflation is nothing but persistent increase in the general price level of goods and services. So when price of items, all the items in the economy start increasing, people start inflation, that's inflation coming in. And the major impact of inflation is that it puts pressure on your income. That is, your purchasing power reduces. For instance, if you are earning 1 million, let's assume you are spending that amount of money to buy to buy cans of sardine. Let's just take an example. Sardine was 300 naira at the time, same 2021. All of a sudden, boom, went to 600. So that means if you are using all your income to buy sardine, that same year, you buy half of what you were buying before, because the price jumped from 300 naira to 600, and that's the impact of inflation. And that is just one item. And if you also check also our GDP, 73%, going to 74% of our GDP is based is consumption. We have what we call component of GDP: the consumption, the investment, government spending, import and export. Those are the 4 components of GDP. That's what we put together to make up what they call GDP. So consumption takes 70% of GDP. And same thing happens to individuals. We also translate that to individuals. If you sit down one day, I'm even challenging you to do that. Just sit down, take your income and think how you spend it on a monthly basis. You realize that either consumables or durable goods or what have you, 70% of more than 70% of them will go to consumption. So the rest will now be okay, savings and investment or what have you. So if 70% of the economy is affected, then more than 70% of the economy is affected. We also see that there will be, that's why people are crying in the economy, because prices of goods and services keep increasing. And one of the causes, because we have major what we call source of costs of inflation also. We have cost push inflation, then demand pull inflation. Cost push means when cost of goods and services are increasing, the price will also increase. For instance, sardine, people bringing it in, the maybe exchange rate and what have you affected their importation, they will transfer that cost to what they are selling, and the price will go up. Then demand pull means when too much money is chasing few goods. I see people have a lot of money in the economy at hand, and there's nothing to there are no goods to buy. So the little ones available, they will start offering higher price and the price will go up. So that's not the case we have in Nigeria. But if care is not taken, this 2021 we might experience demand pull inflation, because money will surely be injected into the economy, especially towards the end of this year, or let me say second half of the year. When they start election campaign here and there, you see money that not even unbanked money moving around the economy. So we should expect
that will also impact the
that also impact on inflation. In the last 8 months or so, inflation has been nosediving. Fine, that's commendable. From almost 20% that we had 2021, the beginning of 2021, as we speak right now, inflation is 15.4%, so which is absolutely commendable. But if we check on the average, that's 17.2 that you said at the time, average of 2021. So that's actually commendable. I give that to CBN and other agency working on that. But that notwithstanding, the impact is still very felt or still very huge on the citizens.
It's obvious that there is one thing, you know, for the figures. There's absolutely, it means absolutely something different, you know, when we talk about the impact and the experiences of people. But I like us to look at this vis-a-vis some other forecasts that we've seen. The IMF, for instance, is saying that Nigeria's economy will grow by 2.7% in the new year, driven by what it calls a recovery in non-oil sectors and higher oil prices, even though oil production is expected to remain below pre-COVID-19 levels. But I like us to look at the implication of these figures yet again, because what you're saying is that if my revenue remained the same and the inflation is going, then at some point, doesn't matter how much it is, you're going to become poor.
It will be eroded. You know, in economy, there's what we call a poor millionaire, where you have money, then that money does not make does not take you home, does not make much sense. That is a nominal income, then real income. Nominal income is how much do you have with you. Maybe your income is your salary is 1 million naira. That's the figure, the unit of currency with you. But what can it buy? That is the real income. So really, which is the major impact of inflation, it reduces real income. And as I cited the example of sardine, moving from 300 naira to 600 naira at a time, that's the real income. Your real income keeps reducing. And there's no government, there's no employer in the world that will increase your salary maybe 15% on a monthly basis or in order to combat inflation. That's actually not achievable. So then if the government can actually manage that very well, maybe take me to ensure that it's about a single digit as we have it in 2018.
How can that be done? Because we've had a lot of ideas to value the naira. I mean,
there are many. For instance, let me look at let me explain that aspect of currency, our falling exchange rate, how it affects or also brings in inflation. There's what we call pass-through effects. If I'm importing either my raw material or my finished goods from outside the country, and we all know that most raw materials are also imported, because our import solution has not gotten to where we should get to. So we are still importing either raw materials or finished goods. So when you bring them in, let's assume you're buying a container of raw material for $1 million. That is the price that you have to bring in, and that's what you sell. Then that's why when I bring in, the exchange was 200 naira. That means you need 200 million to bring one container. Then all of a sudden, exchange rate increased to 400. So that means to buy that same container, you need 400 million. Your importer, so your exporter, the person you are buying from in another country, will not say that because your economy is reducing, then let me also double the container for you. It's still $1 million that they are selling their own container. So you are bringing it down, you are spending 400 million naira to bring it in. So indirectly, what you are selling at 50 naira before, you're not selling 50 naira again. You start selling 100 naira in order to recoup your own money too, because to bring it in before was 200 million, now it is 400 million. So that impact, that exchange rate difference, that devalued currency or depreciated currency, you will pass it to your final consumer.
What are the real factors responsible for this exchange rate that you're talking about?
Force of demand and supply, majorly. Force of demand and supply. This is when the demand for foreign currency exceeds the supply of it. Fine, it will surely depreciate. And if you notice that our naira increased around third quarter or so of last year, because we have injection to our foreign reserve. There's what we call special drawing reserve from IMF that they gave all members, IMF members, they gave them 10% of their foreign reserve. And at that time, our foreign reserve was about $33 billion. So we got $3.35 billion injected into our economy, into our foreign reserve. We also have Eurobond coming in. So with that, our foreign reserve is over $40 billion. So with that, we have enough currency, enough dollar to shock whatever demand people were. So that's why you can see that naira at the time was, we say that naira is appreciating, is against pressure against the dollar. Those are one of the factors. So when that foreign reserve gets depleted again, then the demand for dollar also increases. People are resuming school, they are going back outside the country, they are doing this. Then we also expect naira to also fall, or that to depreciate, or to be devalued. And from what we're hearing, I think CBN also devalued the naira, and they have the measures of doing that. So there are various factors responsible for. That's just one aspect of it. There's still even our consumption pattern also, because consumption pattern is not something that you change over time. Consumption is sticky downward. If you have something you have been consuming over time, even when your income reduces, you still want to continue consuming it. Whether you divest or you reduce your investment or reduce your saving, you still want to maintain that lifestyle. That's what they call relative income hypothesis. So that again, some people are so much should I say, they have formed habitual consumption towards foreign goods. So, if irrespective of the naira, they will still buy it. That means of the exchange rate, that they will still want to buy that foreign good. That means that the demand will still keep increasing. So, there are various factors responsible for it, and I think CBN is actually trying. I won't lie to you. They are trying to ensure that the currency is that our naira actually appreciates. But that notwithstanding, I think their best is not good enough.
Let's take a short break, and when we return, we'll continue with a preview, or let's call it a review, of the economic outlook in the new year. Stay with us. Welcome back, everyone. Nigeria in 2022, what should you expect from the economy? Oladotun Mabinuori is an economist who has joined us. Muktar Mohammed, investment banker. I have another economist joining us on the program this morning. So bring out your pen and your paper. Let's talk about how you should spend your money in the new year. Just before you came in, we were looking at the fourth consecutive growth that Nigeria experienced in its GDP from 2020 to up until now. And we're looking at how that has really impacted, positively on the average Nigerian. And he was just talking to us about the difference between these figures and the impact that it has on real people. As we speak now, IMF has also projected another 2.7% growth in the new year. Put all of these together, how much of it is trickling down to the average Nigerian?
Not much yet. Not much yet. I know Dr. must have done a lot of justice to that. But when you look at what we see those growths, we need to realize that we're coming from an economy that was closed to an economy that was beginning to open up. So most of those positive growth you saw in terms of GDP was because some sectors that were closed are now being opened, and then there was a lot of productivity activities that are generating to productivities in those space. Not because when you see the GDP or the growth rate improving, then you should see the job rate also improving. But in this case, you see the GDP going up and the job rate is still even getting bad. Because some of these sectors that are opening up have not started re-employing people. Okay. So definitely that's why you see it's not including that. And the challenge we have as a nation, I keep saying, is that we make our growth from up to bottom. We don't look to grow from the bottom up to from the bottom to the up approach. So you don't know what the people in the downtrodden need, the masses. So sometimes we try to address the core area in terms of productivity, not looking at employability of those in the downtrodden. So that is majorly a challenge, and those are not things that can be addressed in 1 year, in 2 years, like Dr. said. CBN has been doing what they ought to do, and they have been trying to do the monetary policy side. In short, we are now even, some of us, we are now saying CBN has gone beyond the monetary policy and now even doing what the physical policy are supposed to do in terms of trying to make sure they kickstart the economy. So as long as CBN keeps on doing the monetary policy and the physical side are not doing what they ought to do, it will not trickle down. We must see a synergy between the monetary and the physical side. Then we begin to see those effects on the downtrodden. For now, the cost of production, like he said, is still high because of the exchange rate volatility. And like he said, demand and supply. So how can we address that volatility? We need to think how we can get more in terms of earn more FX to be able to meet our demands. And then we must come up with product. You see, the challenge with Nigeria has not been in the area of attracting this investment. We've been in this route before. We've seen the exchange rate move from 150 to 170 to 250 to 5. Then we've seen stability at 360 for almost 4 or 5 years. But maintaining stability has always been our problem, because after we maintain stability, we don't create products. Then we need to begin to create products that attract more investment. Even when we are maintaining stability, we are thinking of attracting more, so that when there's an external shock, based on the investment we've been attracting, or especially into the effect, into our foreign reserve, we'll be able to, we will not feel those shocks. And that is where I think the CBN should begin to synergize with banks and begin to see how we can create product that can address, that can bring in FX. Banks have a lot of product that they bring in to ordinary Nigeria. Will they begin to see how they can extend this product to Nigeria in the diaspora? Will CBN give bank the leeway to also do a Euro bond, to also be able to build their own reserve also in FX, so that they don't have to run to CBN every time they need FX. They will be able to address it based on their own Euro bond at an interest to those that want it. That could just be a solution. Because the challenge we have now is that those segments of the economy that were being made, especially by the Bureau de Change, are not being taken care of. So as long as you don't take care of those segments, and those segments seem to control over to 60 to 70% in terms of demand, so we will continue to see that volatility.
You also want to wonder who is really calling the shots, because sometime last year the CBN had to shut down an online website. You know, and what exactly is the politics behind that mix, and how has it impacted the situation thus far?
Well, in one of the, as I said, there are too many things driving foreign exchange market. One of them is what they call random effect, or what we call sentiment. Sorry, sentiment. That is, people just all of a sudden create. It could be information asymmetry, maybe false information. So, oh, this thing is this, then people will start running towards that. For instance, if I have a large followership buying foreign currency from me, which was one of the reasons why CBN shut down a website last time, Aboki FX. That because before you buy anything, you go to Aboki FX, you confirm the price of the parallel market price. So if I want to be dubious, for instance, I can do that. If I have such large crowd, I can just say, okay, by tomorrow the price will be 420. Currently selling at 100 naira, 400, and I can say exchange rate will be 420 next tomorrow. Fine, it's not 420 yet, but because I've told you 420 and you want to travel, and you check the market, you saw that it's 410 now, you will still rush to buy it because you know that it's still going to 420. Do you understand? So by creating that, people, then the price the exchange will continue, will continue falling, because people look at, okay, before you get to 420, let me quickly buy. Even when you are not traveling now, you are still traveling next month, but somebody saw a reliable source that you consider reliable, I was told that it's 420, and in fact by end of the month it will be 450. So you want to buy, by doing that, it's creating artificial demand. It's increasing the demand for foreign currency, and by doing that, our naira will continue falling, depreciating. But what CBN failed to realize is that it's not the only person there. There are some people that don't even go to Aboki FX to even confirm the price. Some is just to call Malam, and how much they sell them now? How much is this one now? So all those Malam, do you want to show them down also? So it's only one piece, like removing just one out of many. And that is, as you speak right now, even it was, I think, a day or two after this website was shut down that we had some improvement. After that, naira starts falling again. So that means there are still other things that we need to do. And as Mr. Muktar said the other time, what we need is we should increase our capacity to earn foreign currency. Our manufacturing firms, our manufacturing sector should be revamped. That is, when companies start producing and selling outside the country, they will earn foreign earnings. So by bringing in this foreign currency, it will meet the demand for foreign currency. Because for instance now, if a company is earning $1 million on a monthly basis, as the case may be, so that means that company exporting and bringing in foreign currency is reducing the demand on from foreign currency from CBN or from Aboki or whatever, because I've gotten what I need from my own exportation. So by doing that, the demand, major thing is the demand. Once the demand continues increasing, the naira will continue falling.
Let's turn our attention very quickly to the issue of insecurity and how it affects the economy. We heard the president acknowledge that insecurity is perhaps one of the biggest challenges of this administration last year. Have we started to see this as an economic problem, particularly how it affects the non-oil sector? Perhaps that is going to change our approach to it, even from the perspective of the citizenry.
I think we're paying lip service to it. We're paying lip service towards seeing it as a factor. We see it as a factor, but we've not come out to say it's a factor. Because internally, you already see the effect of insecurity in terms of rising cost of living, in terms of food items. We've seen that already. But again, we are not looking at it in the other aspect of that, the larger picture, which is more in the outside world. Because remember that this, for the past 2 years, even before the pandemic, and the pandemic was in it, our foreign direct investment has come down to almost 95%. We used to be the destination of foreign investment in Africa. Today, most of them are going to Kenya, are going to South Africa, and I'm even going to Ghana. Even recently, the former CBN governor, Malan Sanido, the former CBN governor, Sanido Lamis, is praising Ghana. That he is jealous of Ghana in terms of where Ghana will be able to maneuver, just of recent, in the fintech area and everything, because they have been able to create value. And those values are not created overnight. They were created because they create systems, structures. Nigeria doesn't have a workable system. And we don't tend to think about it. We just want to do things the way we used to do things, and we expect that things will change dramatically. And you know, we believe so much in divine intervention without putting in the effort that will help accelerate divine intervention. That's our major challenge. Like he was talking about the FX challenge, Aboki FX. If you go to other countries, if you go to the UK, in short, let me not go to the UK, let's go a little to Dubai. The exchange rate is displayed in every banking hall. So if you want to look what is the exchange rate today, you go to the CBN website of Dubai. They tell you. But Nigeria, if the foreign guys want to call you, how was the exchange rate today? You say, I don't know. They'll just say, okay, don't worry, let me go to Aboki FX. What are the fundamental determining factor in determining the exchange rate by Aboki FX? What is the factor? Look, the only commendable thing CBN did for me in 2021 was to stop feeding Bureau de change. Now, I want them to go a step further. Don't take over their license. Let them develop product. They are not crying that we want to begin to get remittance. As long as you can manage to monitor those remittance, where they are coming from, they are not remittance that are coming out of illicit funds. And
money laundering.
Money laundering. Then it will bring down the exchange rate, because that will come toward to demand and supply. And the other way is to create that investment window, like he said. Look, you can attract directly, like he was saying, by our manufacturing sector. But if our manufacturing sector, because of the type of challenges they have in terms of infrastructure, in terms of production, in terms of, are not able to manage, why can't we look at an indirect way of attracting those investments? That is why I keep saying that government should begin to see its tax policies as a way to attract investment, not as a way to always think of revenue.
Let me hold you to take Judge's call from Ikeja. Happy New Year, Judge.
Happy New Year, Anifemi, and Happy New Year to your guests.
Same to you, sir.
Anifemi, when I listen to some of our friends who are economists, I find it difficult to understand them. How do you justify an economy improving when it doesn't translate to the living standard of the ordinary man? You are trying to increase petrol, that is the commonest product that they use, by about 100% increase. and you are saying that it is improving. How do you have a country that has 4 refineries and none of them is working? A prominent member of OPEC that now takes its own crude outside to refine and use foreign currency to bring it in again. How can that country ever have an improved economy? And look at the policy strategies of the central bank. Paper management cannot be called an improvement in economy. That doesn't translate to an improved living standard of the people. As far as I'm concerned, if I were the president, the governor of the central bank should have been asked to resign by now. We are not, what are we actually producing? And what is the policy direction that will lead to production? As long as we do not produce anything, we can't actually be talking about improvement in an economy. And now it's being worsened by insecurity. People cannot even, you say economy is improving. What is the unemployment rate? The standard it was in the previous year and 2021. What's the difference? How did we measure it? How many graduates left school in 2021 and were able to find jobs?
All right, Mr. George. I believe you made a point very clearly. We also established earlier about the concept of economic recovery, which I believe it was Mr. Mabinuori who talked about the fact that it is a gradual process that requires a measure of consistency. So we've seen an increment from second and third quarter of 2021. Hopefully, it keeps going up. I'm talking about the GDP growth. And it will take a while based on what the economists are saying, but there's a lot to talk about in such a short time. Let's talk about the PIA, which has been hanging in the air for many months. But the argument for full deregulation of the oil and gas sector has never been this strong. And if what they are saying is anything to take to the bank, if this stuff is activated as prescribed by the law, then removal of fuel subsidy is upon us. In its place, the federal government is talking about 40 million poor Nigerians being paid 5,000 monthly. I think we have talked a lot about that. But let us look at the reaction to this strategy. Okay. It reminds us of what happened in 2012 when the federal government attempted this and then everything went awry. But I'd like you to pay attention to what the NSA is saying. It's saying that its opposition is based on an ideology that it's talking about deceit and duplicity associated with the politics of petrol price increase by successive Nigerian government. In clear terms, it's asking, why have we not make our refinery work for multiplied years? I mean, why should we always resort to this? What are your thoughts?
All right. I was having a chat with a friend of mine before we came into the studio, and I said the major difference between private sector and public sector is sanctions. In private sector, if for instance, if you're a banker and a customer comes in today to complain, to shout, and you realize that you are the one not doing it, you should know that sanctions are coming, either queries or ultimate sack. But in public sector, you go there, go and shout and do this today, nothing will be done. So when heads don't roll, we surely expect this. We have 4 refineries and we are spending millions, billions of naira on TAM, turnaround maintenance, and yet nothing is working. So it is a systemic problem, not even about one individual or president or what have you. What we have seen in Nigeria is that we have strong individuals, but we don't have strong institutions. So until our institution becomes strong, we have GMD of NNPC. We have people managing the refineries. And when last have you heard that somebody was sacked, or somebody was questioned, or somebody was even probed because billions of naira was spent to run to maintain the refineries and nothing was produced? Nothing has been done. Even so-called the probe that was done, the NDCC, Senator, off your mic. All those, what came out of it? Who was sacked? So there are no sanctions. No, so it's a systemic
the president is looking through
for almost 1 year.
They just submitted the reports a few weeks ago. But the question is there ever going to be the right time to regulate?
Now, for the regulation, this is the right time. the best time to have done this will have been that 2012. I wish Jonathan was actually stood his ground and said we are doing. By now we'll have recovered. We'll have gone through that. But now, if you don't do it now, when do you want to do it? And again, going by PIA actually makes the environment very. Okay, this is the best time and the only time we can do it. Now, I understand what Mr. George was saying the other time about the improvements, the well-being of the people. But we can't continue spending 3 trillion naira on a yearly basis subsidizing few Nigerians. How many Nigerians? We are in Lagos, we are in the urban city. People living in the villages, how does that fuel subsidy get to them? They don't use bike, they don't use motor vehicle, they don't use generator, they don't use anything for petroleum. But if that $3 billion for a 3 trillion naira is saved, and in those rural areas, they now have electricity. Do you know that as we speak right now, 40% of Nigerians are not on electricity on national grid? That's there's no even electricity wire. There's no transformer, and they have over 40%. That's over 80 million people. So what if that 3 trillion naira is used to do electricity for them, to make sure that there is a railway or road into that? They will feel the impact of the economy. Then that's when the economic development will set in. But not just the figure that we're talking about. GDP is 4.03, is 5.4. All those ones, they don't have anything to do with that. That is why we are saying remove this subsidy, then let this money get to the final to the last Nigerian that we have here. And the issue of 40 million people, 5,000, I don't think that should
Mazi Korafas called in from Arochukwu. Happy New Year, Mazi.
Happy New Year, Mr. Nifemi. Good Happy New Year to Professor Musa and my brother, the accountant, there in the studio.
Good morning, sir. Happy New Year.
Yes, you see,
Happy New Year.
No matter whatever we discuss or say in Nigeria, as long as we continue exporting crude oil, we are still wasting our energy and time and factors, no matter the variables of economic theory we may propound in this country. Crude oil we send outside. During crude oil, we extract over 6,000 byproducts. I repeat, 6,000 byproducts. I repeat, 6,000 byproducts. Now look at just 6,000 byproducts. Those countries with a this are making use of them to balance their own equilibrium system economically in their own country. But here, we continue suffering Nigeria. Come back to Nigeria as a country. Look at Africa. They have gold. Who are just is the bandit that are extracting this gold and they are selling it there, carrying confusion, putting Nigerian military at the rest. Their country. You go to Plateau State, what is happening? They have the same thing. They have gold there. The criminals are just around there now. What are they? They are now taking care of all those things for their own personal use. And the country, the state, the local government, that they are not extracting anything. They just sit down there and be waiting for the state government to give them money or the federal government. At the end of the day, who is losing? It is the masses. Not all this thing. We are good in theory, professional theory, doctorate theory, master's theory, first degree theory, HND theory. But in the research, we are not making. Look, as long as this model refinery is not with all those 60 potentials, we are wasting our time in terms of all these resources. Right. Because they say they want to get. It's not how petrol will not cost up to 300 or 400 naira per liter in Nigeria. It's not. That one is a must. Whether Nigeria like it at least between 300 and 500 naira, it should be a second platform price. Now, what do we do? Can't we solve the problem now? What are we waiting for?
It's all right. I believe you made your point, Mazi. Thank you very much for your contribution. He mentioned the fact that there's no better time to remove it. He talked about a 3 trillion naira. Many Nigerians will still debate whether the privatization of the power sector has really, yielded the desired results. But I want us to look at, how Nigerians will react. For instance, now, organized labor is talking about protest. That also has its own economic impact when you shut down, the country. I mean, imagine how much we're going to lose during those days. But you look at the economic realities of Nigerians, where they are right now, they don't seem to understand what you're saying. Given the trust deficit that exists, they will ask questions like, how are you sure that 3 trillion naira will be used for those purposes?
That's the major challenge. And especially with this government, they had a lot of goodwill when they came in. Remember that when the president came in, it wasn't long, the price of petroleum the price of fuel went up. And no, there wasn't a single protest. That was the first time in the history of this nation. there wasn't a single protest because a lot of people believed that he was doing the right thing. But after a long time, the mistrust started stepping in because there were some policy statements that he made that he's not able to follow through. Like Organized Labour is saying that there've been a lot of challenges in terms of the oil price template, and I keep saying it was the former Labour leader, comrade Governor Adam Oshomole, that said the cost of lifting crude product is not expensive, but immediately it comes into Nigerian water, the price goes up almost by 30 to 40%, and that is because of NEMESA, discharges, custom, and these are all government-generated revenue agencies. Now, what we are seeing is that government is not ready to take a bite on their revenue. They want to maintain revenue. They are not ready to see that as another effect of subsidy, which will have direct impact on the people, rather than bringing out that harsh trunk of resources to begin to pay some certain individuals as subsidy payments. Now, for the past 3 years, NNPC have been the sole importer of petroleum products. And that is why they are not able to remit so much to the Federation account, because they have to also say, we have to remove what we have spent in importation. Now, this same NNPC came up and said they want to do another turnaround maintenance of a refinery that has not been working, and they set aside money for that. So we must begin to look at the system. It is not in the good book of government to be in business. It has been proven all over the world. Create the enabling environment so that business will strive.
Please hold that thought, Mr. Muktar. Let's take Said's call from Ilorin. Good morning, Mr. Said. Oh, I think we lost that. He waited for too long. We really apologize. You can try again. You'll take a look at precisely what the union is also talking about here. The failure of the current administration to successfully refurbish any of the ailing 4 refineries nearly 7 years after taking office.
Dotun said something. In 2012, we had an opportunity. We blew it up. Before 2012, I think it was sometime when President Olusegun Obasanjo was going, he sold those refineries to Blue Belt, which was headed by Femi Otedola and Aligo Dangote. The same labor, the Nupen Pegency, they protest, and late President Musa Yar'Adua reversed that. That would have been a turning point. So labor itself, when you look at who are those in Petroleum Price Regulatory Authority, are they me and you? Are they not labor people? Are they not civil servants? So what have you done? You seem to have the numbers when it comes to affect you. They seem to have the numbers. That's when they keep on. Even if you look at the electricity sector that you are saying, who are those behind it? Are they me and you? Are they not labor people that are working there? So we need to be sincere when it comes to governance. When it comes, I said something, I will say it. You don't play politics with your economy and your security. If you do, it will not affect APC or PDP alone. It's going to affect everybody. So let's be sincere. The best way to go is what we have gone. If we can, the PIB bill have been passed into law, we are not saying we will not be paying subsidy. Will that be able to attract investment? That, for me, that's what I'm waiting for. If you attract investment into that sector, if you create people to set up refineries, just 3 days ago, Nipsey Wike shut down an illegal refinery in Port Harcourt. What does that tell you? That tells you that it is not rocket science to set up a refinery if you have the political will to do it. And then let's get this thing straight. Setting up a refinery will not reduce the cost of purchase of crude oil from Nigerian government. Nigerian government will sell crude to those refineries at the international price that has been agreed by OPEC. The only difference we will have is in the terms of cost of production, in terms of movement of that goods from the refined point to the refineries, if we have to create the pipelines. And that's why we are saying, even when they come, the kind of investment they will use, they will have to invest to make sure that crude is moved through pipeline, not through the roads. It's also going to be huge. So you will not see that immediate drop in price. But over time, you see those. We are complaining of power. We say in the power sector, we didn't do it right. Because even when the same labor even when we have the big international players like General Electric, we're trying at that time to buy some of these power assets to come and play the part. We said, through the union, said it is not right for Nigerian government to give a key national asset like power in the hands of foreigners. So we have not been able to devour ourselves. Labour have not been able to look at it critically and say, this is the way to go to build our economy. Rather, they are looking at, will it satisfy we, Labour, not looking at the generality of Nigerians.
Ada's called in from Jos. Good morning, Ada. Happy New Year. Are you there?
Yes.
Yes.
I'm there. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Please go ahead.
Yes, okay. Please, as much as I know that we're going to have a lot of things by removing the subsidy, I am an advocate of removal of that subsidy. And so if you keep on waiting for the time, it will never come. The only problem here is that if the government is sincere and they remove that subsidy and they invest it well and reduce the cost of governance, that will make people to have confidence in them. Then we should add value to our raw materials to enable us earn more foreign exchange. And it will also give them to creating employment. Because when you add value to them, there will be industry set up here and there that will provide employment opportunities. Then again, this free this African continental trade or whatever, if we don't improve on adding value to our products, we are going to lose out on that particular, free continental trade or whatever. And then here will be a dumping ground. Now, when you come to each time I hear that they go to the Niger Delta, they say they have destroyed illegal refineries, they will now destroy everything, pollute the whole place, make them more militant. It doesn't make sense. When what they have been refining has not knocked anybody's engine, why can't they integrate them? The VP made that promise when they went for campaign in 2019 that they're going to integrate them. They didn't. They keep on destroying whatever they are producing, and yet we cannot refine here. It doesn't make sense. They said the modular refinery cannot refine our crude. That is the problem. So it doesn't make sense. We export the crude, then we now import the fuel. And immediately the dollar keeps, going, the price drop of oil drops there, it increases here. You know, it doesn't make sense, honestly speaking. Then let them create an level environment so that the investors can come in. Insecurity is so important. It's crucial.
All right.
Let the government of the day have the political will to fight this insurgency.
Thank you.
Let's not give up on this country.
Thank you. Thank you for your contribution. The Dangote Refinery is expected to produce 650,000 barrels per day, and it's reportedly expected to kickstart operation in the first half of this year. So there are people who are saying that it will save the country billions of dollars in foreign exchange, as well as ensure energy security for the country. What role do you see this play in all of this?
For me, it will be a good development, but we should not forget what Adam Smith said in 1776. He said, "It is not to the benevolence of the baker that we have our bread, but for his selfish interest." So we should not see Dangote as Nigeria. He is a businessman. He will surely make his profits. Do you understand? And in fact, it's already making his profit because we saw NNPC buying 20% of his, is it 20 or 10% of his stock for almost the price that he used to construct the so-called refinery. So he's a businessman to make business out of it. But the good thing about it is that we'll have the cost of importation might be out of it. That is, we'll now have the crude readily available. So that's why I was saying that it might not take, it will take time, it might not be immediately. So if you remove the crude, the subsidy for instance, the price is now at maybe 340, 350, that is the, which is reflective of the cost of production. As time goes on, this thing will surely come down. When it increases its own supply into the 650,000 barrel per day is enough to meet our daily.
Let me hold you. Let me hold you very shortly. Patrick has called in from Enugu. Good morning, Patrick.
Hello.
Hello, we can hear you. You have just 1 minute. Please go ahead with your contribution.
Thank you very much. Please, I think that the major problem of this country, confronting this country as far as the improvement of our economy is concerned, is one, we have to improve on electricity. That is the first basic thing. Electricity infrastructure we stimulate the small and medium enterprises sector. Because say whatever you say, if the small and medium enterprise average cannot afford electricity, they cannot grow.
All right. All right.
Again,
Thank you so much for your contribution. I'm so sorry there isn't much time to hear you further. Gentlemen, we have to go, but I'd like to hear your final thoughts on this. 30 seconds apiece. How do we get all the stakeholders, to agree as regards which way to go in the area of removing fuel subsidy? Because having, an economic shutdown is just going to be an added baggage to this challenge. You go first.
Yeah, I think at this juncture, federal government needs to come call the labor union and then sit them down. Let them see this reality. We can't. This is not sustainable. This is not over. And again, this mentality of is a national asset. Why all the national asset that's becoming white elephant?
But I'm afraid that they've been talking. As a matter of fact, they had an agreement in 2020 that the federal government was not going to, undertake a review of the price of fuel.
But this is what PIA recommend. Going by PIA, that's
it overrules that agreement.
It overrules that agreement. This is a law. It has become an act, no more a bill. So it has become an act. So we have, see, that's why I said federal government needs to really talk to labor and let them see the reality. We're also going to buy fuel, and we are saying we are supporting the move. It's not the case that we are immune to the price. We're all going to buy the same price. We're looking at the long-run effect.
My thought is the same thing with we've been having those. They've been having those meetings. Even when I was a young man, military, labor this, labor that. It has not created. Let's do something different. What I want to tell the government that let them have a shared vision with labor. Let labor. You see, the challenge we have is because there's no vision. Yeah. And labor is not even seeing your vision. You, the government, you don't even have a vision. Can we have a common vision, both the government and the labor? This will be a thing of the past.
So you're saying Nigerians should brace up to buy, premium petrol just for more than twice of the current price.
Just for a
short. They say for the next 6 months it's going to be.
When you say for a short time, is it that the price will come down eventually?
The price will surely come down.
Things don't come down in this country.
This will definitely do. Things don't come down. Phone calls came down.
For instance, I say we are using almost 100 million liters of fuel on a daily basis. Because of this exportation to other countries, and because of the so all those artificial usage will fade out.
Have you seen how we manage our electricity for those that have meters?
Yeah, so that's the same thing.
You see why I told you not to have a dirty December? Brace up, ladies and gentlemen. Oladotun Mabinuori, Muktar Mohammed. Gentlemen, thank you so much for coming.
My pleasure.
And Happy New Year to you.
Same to you.
See you again tomorrow. I am Nifemi Oguntoye. God bless Nigeria.